let's get to know you a bit better.
Okay.
Mentally, where were you at that point?
That was probably the biggest knock on my confidence I've ever had, just being in tears in the back of the car, just like, I want to give up. I remember saying to them, one day I'm going to have something, I'm going to build something I'm going to be proud of, and you guys, you just wait.
So what about a business standpoint?
I don't know if I can tell these guys.
Hello and welcome to the T2FIT Talks podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire individuals to achieve their full potential. I'm your host, JT, and today in episode 1, we will be looking at the evolution of T2FIT alongside our guest's personal journey. He's the owner and founder of T2FIT and the co-founder of the Elite Coaching Alliance. He is, of course, the main man himself, Mr. Luke Turner. How are you, sir?
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. This feels weird.
I know. It's strange being here, but it's awesome. Setup looks fantastic. Well done, guys.
So how long has this been kind of like a thing on your radar that you've been kind of hoping to get going?
I guess the inspiration came from, I went out to Vegas in February and went to a seminar, and they spoke about the power of, talking about the journey, creating platforms where we can start, educating and inspiring other people, whether that's you going onto other platforms or creating that platform. And I think there's so many different things we can take from each individual within the team. Also other members that we want to share their journey, where we can't always get that in a 20-minute video of a testimonial. We want to be able to invite guests onto here and have a bit more longer form content, which for me, and I know you do as well, we quite enjoy listening to longer form content, whether that's podcasts or watching it on YouTube, and just getting to know more about individuals rather than seeing it in a minute and a half clip. So we can really start to understand, what's going on, what makes that person tick, what motivates that person, and hopefully a lot of people who are tuning in are going to be feeling inspired and can follow the journey with us too.
So you mentioned about get to know individual a bit better. Let's get to know you a bit better.
Okay.
So obviously people see you as, T2FIT, the guy behind T2FIT, which you definitely are.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of come on to that as we go. But take us back a little bit into like Luke Turner in the younger days, like childhood, growing up, what was school and things like that like?
Yeah. So I guess for a lot of people who see me, think of me being someone who comes across quite confident. But throughout my whole childhood, I always had... I was always ridiculed for being stupid and not very clever, and always struggled at school. And I think a lot of that was just the shift that I took in mindset when I first started struggling at school. I was tested for dyslexia, but didn't actually get diagnosed properly until I was about 22. A couple of years ago, I got tested for it. But I think as soon as those early days of being at school and I started to feel those like laughs when I used to speak up in class, I just felt like I was just going to take on the role of being the cheeky chappy. And from that step forward, I basically never tried at school. And my real passion lied with training and playing football. So for me, the goal was never really to come out of school with any qualifications. The goal was to become a professional footballer. So I disliked school massively. The things that I did take from it was around building a few relationships with some good friends that I still have to this day. But it was more around finishing school as quick as I could so I could head to the football pitch and start playing.
And what age do you kind of really realise that the dyslexia or something, what age did you realise you were struggling with some things?
I would say it's probably around like being 10, 11 or moving into that senior school. Year 7?
Yeah.
Where I really that step up, or doing the entry exams from year 6 to year 7, where I started to think, I'm struggling with this, and things that I thought I was answering questions right, and I was coming out of exams thinking, I bossed that.
Yeah.
And only until you get the exam results and it's like D, you're like, what? And I just found that even with reading, I just used to see different words on pages. And I guess as well, the passion was never there. I never really had a teacher that was that person who I felt I could trust, and it was always around, I was the burden in that class. Mm-hmm. And that's again why I took on that role of being the cheeky chappy, and was kind of just like, let's see how far I can push limits in these classes. And like I said, the goal being a football player, leaving school, I never actually even imagined that I would need a qualification leaving school. Although I went to a really good school, I went to a private school. So leaving there at GCSEs and moving into more of a scholarship with a football program was a big wake up call for me.
So do you feel if you'd had the right people around you, the right help, maybe even if someone had kind of catered a learning style to you in a certain way that worked for you, do you think that would have been beneficial?
I don't know. I think
or do you feel like you just kind of made your mind up at that point? It was like, this is kind of where I'm at. This is the role that I'm going to take on.
Yeah, because no one could have inspired me at school. As in, no teacher could have said, this is going to help you become better at football. Like that would have never have been a thing. But what I was in is a lot of big boy conversations, because most of my family are business owners. So what I couldn't wait for is just being around the dinner table, being at events, being with family and speaking about that sort of stuff. I much preferred being involved with those kind of conversations than I was being around conversations at school, where it meant me having to learn things that didn't really apply to the big wide world. And I was privy to that very early on. So I worked with my dad from the age of, being on building sites my whole life. And even from the age of 10, starting to pay for things and understand the value of money, to then go to school and learn about algebra and things, where I was like, why am I learning this? And that's kind of the philosophy I had, was like, what's the point in me doing this? So I was in the bottom set for everything. I was the disruptor. And although subconsciously I did want to do well, I did generally want to, who wants to do bad? Who wants to do bad at something? No one does. But because I thought I was useless at it, and I was consistently told by my peers and people around me that I was stupid and not very clever, I kind of took that on as like, maybe I am not very clever. And it took me a long time to drop that.
Nice. And what businesses were your family involved in when you were growing up?
Property being the main one. My dad being big in like construction and building work. So, I remember actually being at school. I went to a very nice school. My dad had a big white van. I used to be so embarrassed when he used to turn up at the gates. And when I think back to it now, I'm like, I should have been so proud of that. Yeah. But he used to turn up at the school gates, and I remember saying, like, Dad, you've got to stop coming to school in the white van. You got friends turning up in Range Rovers and stuff like that. And that was always like, for me, I was embarrassed by it, but I was also really proud of him. So I don't know why I was ever embarrassed about that situation, but I guess it's just another thing that I would have had people teasing me about. So from a very early age, I always wanted to kind of do well in a profession and have freedom. And where my dad kind of in some holidays and school holidays said to me about coming and working on building sites, it started from the ground up, just sweeping up rooms, helping him clear things, and just being around, like I said, conversations and listening to what's going on. I was never really hidden away from conversations. Everything was very like, here's my son. No matter what conversation, it wasn't like, oh, Luke, go and wait over there. It was very much like I was involved in everything, which is really cool.
Nice. And did you say, obviously you got some, really good friendships from school?
Yeah.
But ultimately, being in that kind of environment, that work environment quite early on, a lot of your, I guess not even friendships, but conversations, like you say, were very much kind of adult based. Like you're very in a grown up world quite early.
Yeah.
So alongside that, do you think being on that building site quite early on, a lot of your kind of work ethic came from there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And from your dad?
Absolutely. And even the work ethic today is still around proving people wrong at school. Yeah. That's a big driving force for me. When I was doing a lot of the runs, which I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit, a lot of that was around teachers. When I was running and I was in a dark place, I would be thinking there would be Miss McPherson, I say her name, and I would be in a position where I'd be running, struggling, thinking she's there going, I knew you'd give up. So that's the kind of mindset that I've taken on since leaving school, and it's driven me massively. Because I remember being at school, even when people would say to me, you're going to be nothing, you're going to leave school with no qualifications, blah, blah, blah. You're so stupid. And I remember saying to them, one day I'm going to have something, I'm going to build something I'm going to be proud of, and you guys, just wait. And it's funny because up until the point of where a lot of people were at uni, and I bumped into these guys, and I'd go to the gym and I'd see them, and it was all cool. When you grow up a little bit more, you're more mature. But I'd be like, what are you up to now? I'd be like, oh, just tossing around, at uni. And I'm like, wow, how things have changed. Like the people who you thought were the big shots at school, who were going to do really well, are the ones who actually aren't doing anything at all with their lives and kind of just tossing around. So for me, I love that feeling of like being involved with something from a very early age, and that work ethic from just being on those building sites with my dad. And even when I had nothing from leaving school with no qualifications and doing my scholarship at football, every chance I could to jump on the building sites and get more involved with that. The goal wasn't really for me to learn the trade, and that's what my dad kept saying to me. And I wish I'd probably taken a bit more notice. He was like, you should be keen to understand why you're doing this sort of stuff, like how much cement you need to mix. And I was like, I just like the work inside of it. I didn't really care about the numbers and the 3 bags of cement, 10 shovels of sand, 4 buckets of water. I didn't really care about that side of things, but it's taught me a lot of lessons. Although if you ask me to do anything in terms of using a drill, a hammer, don't ask me, because I'm useless. I'd much rather get someone out to
You're not Mr. DIY then?
No, absolutely not.
It's a phone call to Dad. Absolutely. Because I just make the matter worse. If I try and put a painting up, mate, it'd be like that. Yeah. It'd be sideways. I hate to admit it, but I'm pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah. I like to think I could do it, but no.
I definitely outsource it for sure. So you mentioned football.
Yeah.
Take us into that kind of, what would that initial kind of transfer into football look like?
Yeah, well, again, I think work ethic came from that too, in terms of training and push myself to want to become a professional footballer from an early age, being at clubs like Fulham. And when I got released from there, probably around the age of 11 or 12, that was probably the biggest knock on my confidence I've ever had, to be told, we don't want you anymore. And I remember coming back from Fulham and just being in tears in the back of the car, just like, I want to give up. And for about 12 months, it was very much like, I don't want to play anymore. I just want to go and enjoy football. I don't really care what level it is. So I started playing on a Sunday with some friends, and that was great because that kind of sparked my love back for football and built my confidence back up again as well. But then moving into like the latter part of my schooling, I was coming to the end of my GCSEs, and I knew I wanted to pursue a career in football. And I hadn't had any pro clubs. I hadn't had a professional contract or anything like that, or a scholarship, I think it was at that time, that I was looking for. So Carshalton Athletic actually had a scholarship program where you could go and do partly education, so half your week is education, the other half is training and football. I'm like, brilliant, that sounds great. So get up in the morning, go and play, do a bit of education in the afternoon, get a BTEC out of it, super. But what I needed was certain qualifications from school. And actually, I can remember to this day getting accepted to Carshalton a few weeks later, going to school to pick up my GCSE results and not having the qualifications to get in. Yep. And that was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I going to do? This is all I had like dreamt of, going from school to now play for Carshalton. Although it was an amazing standard, I didn't know any other scholarship programs out there offering this kind of thing apart from big clubs. So the Chelseas, the Arsenals, and I hadn't even had a touch from those sort of guys. So
at that point when that kind of, even at a young age, that kind of football door seems to just go bang, shut.
Yeah.
And you've kind of, your entire focus has been like, the academic stuff, not too fast, I want football. Like, what mentally, where were you at that point?
Devastated. And I think that was the first time I really saw like what it meant to be knocked down and then see how to react with that sort of stuff. Because straight away, my dad got on the phone and started to think about like solutions. What could we do? Started to phone clubs. And that was where, even to this day, I take on that philosophy. When something isn't going in my favour or something bad's happened, it's almost like, instead of sitting back and going, we haven't hit targets this month, or we've had a member of the team who's been ill and we've had to like sort some sessions out, whatever it may be, you kind of just go, okay, what's the solution? What can we do about it? And that was privy to that early on in like being 15 or 16 and seeing that, to then a few weeks later getting a trial at Bromley and going there and doing a scholarship program. It all kind of went full circle, and I would probably say if I didn't go to Bromley, I wouldn't be here today. Yeah, it was meant to be.
What did Bromley give you? Obviously, you're going into a decent professional outfit or semi-professional outfit.
Yeah,
you've already mentioned kind of what football gave you from a kind of a training and accountability standpoint. But what did Bromley kind of lay out for you that kind of has got you to where you are now?
Yeah, well, I guess being in the real world, although I was on building sites and I was having big conversations with adults, going to a private school to then go into Bromley Football Club, you're mixing with people from all walks of life. You didn't really need a qualification to get in there, because the first thing my dad asked was, what qualifications do you need? And it's like, well, as long as you can walk and talk and you can play football pretty well, you're in. Yeah. But obviously you have to prove yourself. So I went down for a week's trial, got the space. But yeah, you're just around different people who just, they will punch you in the face.
And you were still quite young at that age, right?
Yeah, 16.
And what was kind of the average age of the players there?
So there's first years, second years, and third years. So actually, because I used to play at quite a good standard, and the trial period that I went on, I did really, really well. There was an opening for a left back in the second year, so I actually played upper year, my first year, and then obviously I was playing with my age group the second year. But yeah, it was interesting because I've always been quite small. I've always been like around like 5'5", 5'6", and that's actually one of the main reasons why I got released from Fulham, because of my height and because of my stature. And I think that's probably what got my hunger going for training and lifting weights and getting a bit bigger and building some size. But when I was at Bromley, I was still quite a small frame, but I had that hunger and that determination to, all the things that I've been through, from getting released from Fulham to leaving school to not doing well in my qualifications. And I was like, I've got to make this happen. So every day at training, I was hungry and I proved myself. Because imagine a first year going into a second year. A lot of them are like, who's this little kid? Like there was second year players who were on the bench because I was playing. Yeah. So immediately, every week you have to turn up. Every week you've got to be showing yourself. You've got to be proving yourself, working hard. I guess the biggest distraction around that sort of time was people hitting the 18, 19 marks and going out drinking. And for me, it never really appealed to me. All I wanted to do was go to sleep on a Friday night early doors, get up and play on a Saturday, train on a Sunday, and get back to it on Monday because fitness tested Monday. So I never wanted to go out and be a part of that. Although later on down the line, I did start to go to those sort of parties, but I was never really into drinking and smoking and anything like that. I was just really, committed to my career.
So those older players being benched because the young guns come in now and just basically outplaying them.
Yeah.
Did that cause any kind of real conflict between you and the other players?
Yeah, I think there was definitely some jealousy, but it shows in training too, because people get a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
They're like, frustration comes out kicking out. But again, I could show aggression, and as soon as you show that back, that people start to respect you a little bit more. So
do you feel like building sites were quite a good place to kind of harden you towards that?
Yeah, absolutely. But I learned a lot in that period of time. Like you're playing with boys who have not gone to school really. They've just been bunking their whole life, or worse, they've been in terrible situations, gangs, prison. So knocking around with those sorts of people. I was very privileged to be able to have like mum and dad support me with everything. My mum used to even take me to football, and I was like 16, 17 when these boys were getting the bus and tram and train. And I remember like the second week of playing at Bromley, I was like, Mum, can you drop me here? I'll walk the rest of the way.
It's the white van away, Ruben.
Yeah, it was. I was like, I don't want people to know that my mum's dropping me off at football.
And then, so Bromley also gave you an opportunity on the PT front there, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of, is there some kind of PT, is it scholarship or a scheme there?
Yeah.
How did that work?
Yeah, so first year I was actually the youngest player ever to play for Bromley Football Club. We had a first 11 appearance, which was amazing, incredible experience. Really kind of showed me the level of like the standard I needed to be at to be consistently playing that sort of standard. But Bromley at the time, they're a big club now, but at the time they were looking at giving opportunities to younger individuals. And me and another boy, Tom, who were good friends, played a few caps for Bromley in FA Cup games, which was amazing. Again, a great opportunity. And just being around the change room of these bigger lads, some of them have had professional careers and have dropped down a few levels to play semi-pro. But as time went on, I stayed there for my third year. Bromley started to have an influx. So they had a new chairman, some more money. They were looking at developing the grounds. I was like, fantastic, what a great club to be a part of. And then one day I just never got the call, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? So this was actually the end of my second year. I went away with Tom, and we were in Malia, and I never forget, I was like, have you heard from Neil? He told us we'll be back in for pre-season. He was like, no, I haven't heard from him. Text him, nothing. Text him again, nothing. I was like, wow, this is the politics I've heard about within football, where you get sold a dream towards the end of the season, and then before you know it, you're nobody. So coming back from Malia, thinking about plan B, I stayed another year, third 11, and then I started to hear about level 3 qualification coming in. So I was like, you know what, I love training, passionate about training. And actually at the time, I'd probably built up a bit too much size because I was trying to think about playing in that first 11 with big boys and as a left back. So I needed to be able to hold my own. So I was probably too big. I wasn't athletic enough. I was training the wrong way. I was a bit more of a bodybuilder style. And when the qualification came around, I was like, I'm going to throw myself at it. And that was like my plan B in case nothing happened. But as I was going through the qualification, I started to really get a bug for it. And I was like, I could see this as a career.
And how did you manage the academic side of that? Because obviously something that you were never typically that good at.
Yeah.
There's obviously a decent amount of that in there, the anatomy and physiology, first aid, all that kind of stuff. So was it better because it was something that you were really invested in and you were interested in?
I really struggled with it again. Struggled with it because the anatomy. I like to know things that are actually going to genuinely like help in terms of me working with like an experience. I love going to amazing restaurants. I love going to amazing hotels. I can create an amazing experience, but trying to know the things that people don't really necessarily need to know about, but will benefit them and benefit the service that I can create. It was really hard for me to retain some of that information. I was really lucky though, because they put it out to the whole club and there was only me and one other person who took them up on the opportunity. So it was a really small class. Having said that, it took just over a year to get the qualification. Yeah. So that was something that I felt went on for too long. So it held me back from being able to retain information because I was always, even at school with homework, it was always last minute. Yeah. And even with like, oh crap, I'm meeting Amanda, I think her name was, next week. I need to start doing some work that she set me. So, which is why we created the ESA, where we could kind of really bring it into a short period of time, 12 weeks, because it's really immersive and people can retain information better. And there's more information coming. It may seem a bit more overwhelming at times, but I believe it's a better way of learning. For me, having a year, I could have crammed that all in 12 weeks. It makes sense. But to be honest with you, the year worked because I was still working with Dad. I was playing football as well on the side, playing for 2 different clubs. So it was actually probably enough to not have to cram things in and do too much.
So when did the football kind of get put to bed, so to speak, and then when did you kind of step into your first PT role?
Yeah, so when I stepped into my first PT role, I was in a commercial gym. I was at Nuffield for 2 years, and I was still playing football then. When I opened the first gym in Addiscombe, I was playing for about 2 years, just kind of like dabbling with different clubs. Wasn't really taking it too seriously because I couldn't commit, because as work was getting busier, I was there in the evenings, I was there on the weekends. But I then got a really bad injury on my knee, which stopped me playing for a few months. And then I went back and I just didn't have the same hunger for it. And it got to a stage where I was almost just playing for the sake of it. You imagine you've put your whole life from the age of probably 8 when I joined my first club to then being 22 and thinking, like, I'm going to give this all up. That's 16 years of my life that I'm, that I've devoted to this sport, to not have anything come of it. But when it wasn't serving me and I wasn't happy, I wasn't coming away from games or training feeling satisfied or fulfilled, and I was getting more fulfillment from helping others in the personal training space, I was like, I need to give this up.
Yeah, made sense. So go back to Nuffield. 2 years. 2 years you were there for?
2 years, yeah.
How did you find that? Being obviously a big commercial gym, when you think of what T2FIT is now versus what the commercial gym actually looks like, obviously they're worlds apart.
Yeah.
How did you find kind of being in that space?
Yeah, I think initially I loved it. I loved being around other people, turning up to work every day in gym stuff, in comfortable clothes, because I'd actually had a sales job a little bit before that I worked with my auntie and uncle for a bit, and going into a hot, stinky office with a suit on and having to speak to people on the phone with no human contact. I was doing my PT qualification at the time, and I was like, I'm really excited to get into a gym and be able to work in a gym, because when I used to finish work, I'd head straight to the gym, to Nuffield, the gym I actually worked at in the end, and be training there thinking, I'd love to work somewhere like this. And then when I had a friend who worked at Nuffield and another friend who was a lifeguard there, I started to put feelers out to see if I could potentially work there one day. And knowing Cass as well, I knew of Cass because he introduced me. That was the kind of guy Cass was. He spoke to everybody at the gym. So he didn't even know I was doing my PT qualification, but we knew of each other because he had always come and make the effort to have a conversation and a chat. But when I did get qualified, the first thing I did was handed in I knew they had a role coming up actually. So I applied, and then I was on holiday, and on my 18th birthday, I think it was, I got the job, and I started a few weeks later.
Nice. What did that 2-year kind of Nuffield stint teach you about the fitness industry?
Yeah, I guess, you know what, and this is actually tied into where we are today. I wanted to be on a mission. I wanted to be on a crusade with somebody. And what I found was with Nuffield, I still couldn't tell you to this day what they were actually all about. You know, I want to be part of something which there's a reason why we do everything. And it was very transactional, where I just felt like I'm coming to work, I'm getting pestered every day. You know, there's elements of management that I didn't really like. And also just, I guess, a case of bitchiness too, which I didn't like. That culture of, you know, you say something to someone and before you know it, someone's talking behind your back. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm not happy anymore. First year I smashed it, I loved it, and I really enjoyed it. But as I kind of honed my craft even more, and I got really busy with PT clients, it's kind of just like, what am I doing? Like, where am I going with my career? But I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even think about a new gym. I didn't think about moving to another club. I didn't think about starting an online program. I was just like, well, I'll continue and see what happens. And then my dad actually approached me and said, listen, Sandylands, Addiscombe Cricket Club, they've got a vacancy with a premises that's just come up available. The nursery are going to be moving out. And coincidentally, this was a nursery too. Would you be interested in like looking at it? I know you're not happy at work, but this could be a good opportunity for you to get out. So my goal starting at Nuffield was never to start a gym. It was never to open up a fitness space for other people. It was just around starting somewhere, honing my craft, learning, being around other people who were doing good things, and see what comes of it. And when I got the keys to Addiscombe, it was a surreal moment.
And how old were you when you got the keys to Addiscombe?
Yeah, I was 19.
Yeah,
19.
It's a big jump.
Yeah.
A big jump for someone, again, at a relatively young age, who had no real interest in starting a gym, going like, yeah, let's just make it happen. What did that first kind of 6 months look like?
Yeah, it's hard to think back to it. It's all a blur, to be honest with you. It's all a blur. It was a lot of ups and downs because you're not just figuring out the business, but you're trying to figure out yourself. Mm-hmm. So what I know now and starting a business and what that entails, I have a lot more clarity on what that would look like in terms of work ethic, in terms of the people we need in the right positions, in terms of just like scaling it to the point of where you can actually enjoy the business that you're creating. Because for a long time at the old gym, I was in a position where it wasn't serving me anymore. And it was kind of going into the same direction as to the latter part of my Nuffield career was going. So yeah, it was scary at first, but I had the backing of my parents and a really good support system within my family and friends. And I think I just met Kelly at that point too. So yeah, actually I met Kelly at Nuffield, my partner. So moving over to the new gym, I did have a lot of support, but there's a lot of doubt that crept in too, especially from thinking back to the days of being at school and starting to look at figures and numbers where all that was taken care of at Nuffield. And it was very scary. But what I was good at was creating that culture within the gym to have a thriving community where we had just the most amazing members like we do today. And a lot of those people who came from Addiscombe coming over to here were witness to. So it was superb. But we got to a stage where at the old gym, I knew that things needed to change. I wanted to grow a team. I wanted to be much more than just myself. I wanted to create something where we could serve more people. And one, the venue wasn't right. And two, I wasn't in the right position either. I needed to think about how we could scale this and be able to help more individuals. And that's where COVID-19 came in. And it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, to be honest with you.
So explain that. So why did COVID kind of actually become a positive thing for you in the end?
Yeah, well, I think for a lot of people can probably resonate with this. You're constantly on that hamster wheel where, you know, Monday you wake up, you're on the grind till Saturday afternoon, and then you take your foot off the gas and it's like, okay, right, we've got to prepare for Monday again. And until I had a holiday and actually like sat back, that was when I recuperated. But honest to God, when I was coming back from holidays, I would be in the gym that evening. I'd book an afternoon flight back from Mallorca and I'd be back on a spin bike that evening to coach a session because I felt like I was letting my members down and clients. So I that was one, unhealthy. But what it did allow me to do is really stop, reflect and look at, okay, what have I done really well and where do I want to go next? And I don't want to be coming out the back of COVID in the same position again, because I knew as soon as I come out of COVID, I'm going to be back into those bad habits. So I had to create new habits, new rituals, and think about, okay, what do I need to invest into in terms of my mind to be able to know where to go next? So it was around investing in courses, webinars, some coaching, and starting to understand, okay, what does it look like to be able to grow this business? And COVID gave me that time to go into work, do an Instagram live or a Facebook live, and then from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m, I'd be grafting and looking at, okay, what does this look like if I did take this to a new venue? What does this look like if I did start to create a team and start to then think about, okay, what do I need in place? And that's where I think it really taught me a lot about my character and how resilient I was to be able to not sit back and go, oh, COVID, oh man, it's a great time to get out of jail here.
So you said that you kind of sat back and reflected a little bit on your time at Addiscombe.
Yeah.
What did you do well at Addiscombe, do you think? If there's one thing that really stands out, what would you say, like, yeah, we actually did that very, very well?
I think just consistency, so consistent. Like no matter how I felt, whether I had a bad day, I was feeling under the weather, it was cold, rainy, it was 8 p.m. at night, I'd be at times working with clients till 10 p.m. because that's the only time I could fit people in. So I was just incredibly consistent. But what I did start to put up was a bit of a facade as to how I was feeling. So every new person, you know what it's like, we do the same here. We often say about, like, you know, no matter how you're feeling, that person doesn't know how you're feeling. We need to make sure that the person who comes in our doors, this is the best part of their day. So we know everyone's got shit going on. But what I was able to do was kind of like push that to one side. And every new person who came in the door every new hour, it was very much like they were the most important person in the room. And I think that's what really separated us and allowed us to grow the business to the point of where people couldn't imagine being anywhere else, and there was no competition for us apart from being at T2FIT.
And what, upon reflection, what would you have done differently, if anything, at Addiscombe?
I would say not work so hard, I would like to say, because it was bloody brutal. It was like 4 a.m. starts till 10, 11 p.m. There's some pictures that I put out actually a few months ago of me just sleeping on the sofa with a laptop on my lap. Yeah. And it was crazy. It was mental. It was really not healthy. And it was constantly falling asleep at the table, falling asleep at my desk. And yeah, there was it wasn't a productive environment. It wasn't very fulfilling. And also as a career, like if I wanted to have a family, and now we're in a lucky position where we've got Matilda, I could never have enjoyed that time with her and still being able to grow that business. Because if I stopped working on the business and working that hard, so would income, essentially. So it had to be that way. And until I started to kind of research as to what successful people were doing, I was like, oh, cool, these guys have got a team like that. That looks like fun. And then I thought back to the days when I was at Nuffield, and I was like, I did actually really enjoy being around the right people. Like being with Cass was awesome. It was a great education for me. And just the feeling that it was like, you know, having other like-minded people around. And I know that was a big part for you coming over to T2FIT as well.
Yeah, for sure. So COVID-19 hits in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Everything's going on. People are like scrambling around, trying to save money.
Yeah.
Think about what their next move is going to be. Businesses like closing down. And you get the opportunity to open T2FIT Old Coulsdon.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind trying to open up a brand new, larger scale business during a global pandemic?
Yeah, it was scary, really scary. It was very much like, can I do this? And I still had, again, talking to myself like I was back at 15, 16 years old, like, you know, am I good enough to do this? Am I at the right stage yet? And none of us are ever at the right stage to take that next step.
Did you still have your teacher's voice in your head at that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like very much as a driver?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Very much so. But again, having a good support system was super helpful. And I did definitely talk this place into existence, because the couple of the crazy journeys that I've been on, from the 12 marathons in 12 months, the 100K, it all started the day after New Year's Day 2021, and I went out for a run, and I was like, you know what, tomorrow I might go out for a marathon. And that was the first time that I started to do some crazy stuff. And I went out for a marathon really naive, no water, no food, lack of preparation, no training leading up to it, and I felt like I was going to collapse at one point. But I'd done it, and I was like, you know what, I could do more shit. I can do big stuff. I can put these kind of things out into existence, and they can come true. But after that marathon, I started to do a few more runs. And I used to run, because I only live 5 minutes down the road. I used to run past this place, and I was like, 2 churches side by side, they can't both be used as a church. And then I found out that a nursery had just closed down in here. And then I was just scrolling through Rightmove one day, and it stumbled upon me, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like that's a really cool space, but I think it's way too big. I think it's way too big for us. And because at that point, it was only myself, Hannah, Mel was doing a little bit of work at the gym. And I had a few conversations with Cass about potentially coming aboard. So I was like, how am I going to potentially fill this and be the only coach in this massive gym? And again, just thinking too small. But as time went on, and I submitted a proposal, and a couple of conversations later with the church, and we eventually got the keys to this place, that was when the real work started to, like, you know, hit me. And I was like, right, we've got to make this work, because it's not just me now who I'm relying on. It's trying to make sure that we create a strong enough vision that we can build a team that believe in this too, and want to come on this crusade and you know, help as many people as possible.
So what initially was the vision though? What was the, like, moving into this bigger building, moving on from Addiscombe, what did you actually envision? Like, what did you set out to do?
I think the initial goal was just to help as many people as possible. And there was no real strategy around that. And over the past 2 years, I've learned so much. And that's just purely because I've been able to step away from the gym floor, which has been one of the best things I've done. One of the most challenging things I've done, but one of the best things I've done, because it's been a way for me to grow this and look at how we're doing things to make it better. And you almost need someone in the business, or any business, to be able to step away and go, okay, let's get our ducks in a row, and let's see what we need, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, refine those things and make it better. So what's your question again, JT?
It was kind of what the overall vision basically was, stepping into this place. Yeah.
So again, the vision was just to be able to help as many people as possible. There wasn't much strategy around that. That's why I say about the 2 years after, since we opened, has been like really important. But the vision, when I look at it now, how solid and concrete it is, and everyone in the team has clarity on it, it really makes me think about how important that vision really is. Mm-hmm. And we still want to help as many people as possible. But back then, we still had a few things which weren't really serving the business to be able to grow it and serve more people. We were still doing one-to-one PT. We hadn't really yet refined our small group program, because we were brand new to small group. We'd started small group PT in just before COVID-19 hit, about 6 months before that. But I was programming it, and I wasn't doing, when I reflect now, I wasn't really doing it the service it needed. So having Cass come on board, and his expertise and his knowledge and all the things that he's gained over the past 10, 12 years has been a game changer. So once I started to see the potential of what this program could potentially help more people with, and how flexible it was. I was like, okay, instead of us offering 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours in the evening, how can we pack our days out as much as possible to be able to have the most flexible way for people to be able to train, and the most empowering way to train, coming away from this place, no matter what shit you're dealing with in life, whether you've had a bad morning with the kids, or you've had a bad meeting at work, you've had a row with the boss, whatever it is, people can come in here for an hour. It's their time. They can leave the phone at the door, and they're into a session, and a coach is going to help them no matter where they're at in their mental state.
And at what point were you actually able to kind of step away from the coaching? So I know obviously it wasn't straight away, you were coaching alongside Cass. At what point were you actually able to go like, I need to step back now so I can really focus on the other stuff?
Yeah, well, as soon as we started here, I knew I needed to step off the gym floor. So as soon as May 2021 hit, I was like, I need to get off this gym floor, because things were growing a lot quicker than I expected. Imagine going from a little cricket club off the high street. No one knew we were there. We kind of kept the same clientele for about 12 months. Coming over to here, you're on the main road. There's more hype in the area. There's a lot more people around here. There's a lot more eyeballs. And in terms of the space, it was just a lot more aesthetically pleasing than the old gym that we had. And we had a team as well, which made us even stronger. But I guess in terms of just looking at what we were able to do with our program and making that better each and every 6 to 8 weeks that we were running those programs at that time, allowed us just to kind of build something so strong. And we were in a position where we didn't really know anyone else who was creating these kind of programs. So we were just going off what we thought was the right thing. And over time we were like, right, we won't do that again. We even played around with a 12-week program, a week on and week off program. And over time we were just like, you know what, I think we found the sweet spot here with 8 weeks. We did a lot of market research just with the people in the gym, and even just from like us internally as a team, talking about what we felt was the most enjoyable from a coaching standpoint and what we felt like members were getting the most out of. We're able to refine our programs more and more and more to now create one of the best coaching services in the UK.
Absolutely. And then how did you find kind of turning into like more of a management mindset, like a management role? How did you find that? Obviously it's been very, very solo up until that point, really.
Yeah.
So at that point, management role, having a small team, but trying to build something really big.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I'm still trying to work on. I think as we get bigger as well, it's about putting the right people in the right positions. So we're really lucky with having Cass running the coaching and the program in here at the gym, having Rosie who's running the front of house, and we've got Amy who's running the operations. So it's just about finding the things that I was doing too much of and trying to palm it off to people who can do it better. So putting people in the right positions has really been the thing that I've been trying to look at and do best. So even in terms of the podcast, thinking about the podcast, I'm like, who would be the perfect candidate to be able to launch something like this? And seeing the way you kind of hold yourself, JT, I was like, you'd be absolutely perfect for this. That's why I'm so excited for this new venture. So yeah, the management side of things is difficult, but I think just delving into a lot more personal development, that time off the gym floor has allowed me to do that, and has allowed me to research more and look at individuals who are doing things well, like the John Maxwells, the Patrick Bet-Davids. I'm a big fan of a lot of the people in America who are doing great things, and just kind of reflecting on every situation. Like even with previous team members that we've had, reflecting on why that maybe have not have worked out so well, and kind of looking at going, right, what could we have done better there, rather than being in a position where it was like, oh, that person wasn't right for the business. Being like, what could have we done better? Because as well, for a lot of us, this is all new. Like for a lot of us, we've never really been in these kind of positions. And when you're in more of a corporate role, there's a lot more systems in place where it's like, this is what you must do in this situation, where we're just going on intuition and what feels right. And but that's the most exciting thing about being part of a small business, is each person can grow so quickly through an organization like this. And that's why I'm excited for the future.
And what kind of things have you personally invested in for like your own development, whether it be physical or from the kind of the more business managerial standpoint? Like what have been the really big milestone things for you that you've gone and basically invested in yourself? Yeah.
I think I've always been against investing in a mentor or a coach. Funny enough, I've always been around more jumping on courses and stuff like that. But at the beginning of last year, I decided to invest into one-to-one coaching, which was with Natalie Potts, and that was really, really good. And I found like, even just in terms of looking at the investment that I was spending on having a coach and working on like just more, that was more around leadership, being a better leader. it just made me pay attention more to those things. Like when someone comes away from a coaching experience here, they're more inclined to action something because they feel invested into it, because they know it's going to help them and benefit them. Whereas for me, I was always like, I don't know the right coach or the right mentor. And the best thing I ever did was just go, you know what, I'm just going to just work with Nat. I know Nat, I'm just going to work with her. And it was brilliant, really, really good. It opened my eyes because I saw so many things change on a week-to-week basis. I suddenly thought, I need to start investing in more things. And what can I take from different people? And there's a few different people that I've kind of like looked at and gone on different courses. And recently, like I say, come back from Vegas in February, which was eye-opening. And just networking. Just, I think within the industry, we can be quite guilty of just staying within our four walls. So just trying to connect with more gym owners, more personal trainers, and obviously launching the ECA has been a huge part of just being able to educate the next generation of coaches so that I can give and Cass can give people the empowerment they need to go and excel in the industry, rather than how I started in my early career was like, who do I help? Where do I go? What do I serve? Who do I serve? And how do I do it? Whereas they can leave our course and be like, oh, this is what I want to do. I know what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it.
So having invested in those things, what would you say your biggest takeaways were? What did you learn about yourself?
I learned about myself. I guess it allowed me to find different strategies of reflecting more and putting in more systems in place. But I guess the biggest thing was around just not thinking. My biggest problem forever has been just not thinking big enough. And although some people might look at it and go, oh, you've done pretty big things, but I still think I'm only scratching the surface. And I think a lot of people are just scratching the surface. And that's why when we speak to people about what we do, it's around, we help everyday individuals achieve their full potential. And that's really what we like to unlock. And it's what we do in our life too. Look at you, JT, running a marathon. We're talking about doing an Ironman next year. Talking about doing, well, we're not talking about it, we're doing it. We're doing high rocks at the end of the year. It's things like that where you can't help but be inspired about being in this sort of place. And I think what my biggest learnings from being a part of these kind of things is just about thinking bigger, doing bigger things, because it opens up so many different doors.
I remember 2 words that you said to me that you started to really think about, which was like, why not? Like, how did you come about that? Because it's very simple, really. It's like, well, I can't do that, but why not?
Yeah.
Like, where did that come from?
You know what?
Is it through like failures and then going again? Like, it's just over time, it's something that you've come up with?
Yeah, I just think that the dialogue I have now is so different to the dialogue that I had 10 years ago. So for me, I just want to be able to try everything, do everything. Like, even if I'm working out with somebody, I want to do better than them. I want to try and get a little bit better. Like when we train on Sunday, I'm still like, I'm trying to stay on his toes. What is he pushing at? What is he, what's his stroke rate? And I think it's so important to have that hunger, because it's not out of spite. It's out of like, I want to make sure that I push myself as hard as you're pushing yourself, so that you push yourself, so you can try and stay on how hard I'm pushing myself. And that's really, for me, like the why not philosophy is cool, because when I hear people talk about doing big things, they might shy away from it. Like, we just took 22 members to High Rocks. Most of those people a year ago would have probably said they would have never done something like that. But to kind of take that mindset on, where they're like, why not? Why not? Like, yeah, I'm in my 40s, but why not? I can do anything. Like, I think we've got to try and reframe the way we do speak to ourselves, because it does make a big difference when you start to, although you might see it as being really small things, depending on how people talk to themselves, but they might say something like, I would never be able to do that. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, you can do anything, absolutely anything. And that's my biggest goal with my daughter now, is around how she talks to herself. I never want to hear those words. Why I can't. I want to hear, I'll try. If I fail, I'll try again. That's the sort of thing I want to see.
Remember, like, one of the first times I heard you say like why not was around me coming in to train at 4:30 in the morning on that Wednesday and Friday. And I remember watching you come in regularly at 4:30, or at least hearing about it, because I wasn't here at the time doing it. What made you start getting up at 4 in the morning to be here for 4:30 to start training on your own, cold winter days? Like, what was the catalyst behind that? Why?
Yeah, I think there's a lot out there on social media that's like, you have to get up at 5 a.m. to go and train for 5:30, and you've got to do this to be a beast. And that stuff does inspire me. It doesn't inspire some people, but I do love that kind of, I do like getting ahead of the game, but I just like doing the difficult things. And that's why I do a lot of these challenges outside of business, because it just gives you a different stimulus. It's like a head start first thing in the morning. If I don't do it first thing in the morning, I feel guilty. I don't feel like I've got a head start. So when you start to look at the things you do in a day to day, if it's serving you, do more of it. If it's not serving you, get rid of it. But for me, waking up at 4 a.m. it's horrible. Training at 4:30, it's not nice. But when I finish it at 5:30, I feel on top of the world. It's the toughest box ticked of the day, and then everything else on top of that, anything that comes my way, is no problem. But also another big reason is because when I found out I was training around here in the daytime, it would be a bit disrupted. My focus would lack. I'd more than likely sack it off. There'll be an important meeting that would come up, or I didn't really feel like it, or I was tired, or I had a niggle. At 4 a.m, you don't have a chance to talk to yourself like that. So it's just you versus you, 4 a.m, let's go. And funnily enough, it's now, and you'll know this, JT, it's become more of a struggle after doing my recent photo shoot, getting back into that routine and beating myself up because I've been snoozing the alarm occasionally here and there because I haven't been able to get up at 4:30. It's just me being talking to myself slightly differently. So I'm like, I've done this shoot. Subconsciously I'm going, I've done the shoot. I don't need to get up at 4. I don't need to get here for 4:30. Why do I need to do that? But then you've got other people around you who are pushing you. I know you're going to be here at 4:30. So I'm like, right, if JT's going to be here, he's going to know I'm not here. So then I'm going to feel guilty when I come in at 5:30. And that's really what it's about.
Do you think it's been a positive thing for the team around you to see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I said it a few months ago. It's for the team to come in and see that when I don't need to be here at that time. I think it's definitely inspiring, and it definitely makes everybody. I want to be the person who makes people feel like they want to do more, and that's really the goal of doing that 4:30. Like if I came in and Amy had just finished the workout and it's 5:30, I feel guilty when Amy's done a session and I haven't been here at 4:30. And I'm sure you probably feel that when you come in and you see me at 4:30 training and you haven't trained. It's like, oh, man, he's got a head start, because you know how good that feels when you do complete it.
That's true.
So it's definitely around trying to inspire the team, let them know that I'm not just kind of taking a back step and going, I'm comfortable, I'm happy with where I'm at, and I don't need to be here. So I'll still want to be working my butt off and feeling like I'm having a huge impact into others, so it inspires them to do more too.
And how have you kind of cultivated the team you think that we have here? Because I think we have an amazing team here.
Yeah.
And it's something that definitely shone through to me when I initially saw this gym on social media, and I was even messages, as you know, one of the members here at the time, and I was like, it can't be true, it looks too good to be true. And he was like, no, actually it really is that good. It's quite rare to find, I think. So what kind of things have you put in place here that's allowed you to cultivate that team?
Yeah, I think having a strong vision and having some strong core values has been really important, but I think just having a really good gut feeling about people. We've been super lucky with just the right kind of people landing on our plate at the right time. Like when you got in touch, when Em got in touch, when Amy was actually working for a different company and I was actually working with her. She was my sales rep when I was working for, we were looking at investing in some more education for the business, and we knew this company could help, and Amy was part of that, and I knew she was a coach at a gym similar to this year's before. And just seeing potential in different people and going, that would be a great person. I still do it now when I'm out or I've got friends and I'm like, that would be someone who would be so right for T2FIT. And I think when you know what that person looks like, it really does help, because whenever I see someone who potentially wants to work here, I can immediately tell if they're going to be someone who's going to fit in with the team. And that's the most important thing, because one person could bring this whole place come crashing down, can bring this place down. And it starts with the person who turns up and introduces themselves, or comes in for a trial. That's generally how we start with someone who inquires. It's like, right, come in and do a 30-day trial. You've done the 30-day trial. And that is the best interview ever, because what you can see from that person is how early do they turn up, how much they interact with the team, how much they interact with members, how do they dress, how do they show up, are they scruffy, do they hang around a little bit afterwards to have a chat? And that in itself is just the best way to see what somebody's really like, because someone can turn it on for an hour and have a face-to-face conversation and come across really well and have a CV that's gleaming. But when you see them in action and see if they can be consistent for a whole month, it says a lot.
And when you have that kind of team behind you, does it open up possibilities for you and your visions? Do you feel like you can start to reach that a little bit further and a little bit higher?
Yeah, absolutely.
More confidence behind you?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. Because you're stronger as well. You're stronger. You've got more individuals holding the fort. You've got more people to bounce off of. You've got more ideas, more innovation. And I think as we get bigger and as we grow our audience and as we potentially move to new sites, I think it's the most exciting thing having such a strong team, because it's like, right, when we're ready, we know people are going to be in be able to fill certain positions, rather than being in a position like when we started in 2021, where it was just me, Hannah, Mel, and talking to Cass. It's like, right, this is the vision of where we potentially want to go in the next year, but we need to start finding the right people. And that's what's really scary. But when you do eventually find the right people, you're like, there are people out there who are like us. And I think that's what's tough within the fitness industry. Sometimes personal trainers can get a bad rap for being, on their phone on the gym floor, not really giving a shit about their clients. But what we're looking for is people who are different and who are obsessed and unreasonable with the experience, and being able to create something that is not just fulfilling for them, but gives them a career and also a pathway to actually do really well in this industry.
So at the start of this year,
Yeah.
you actually named this year the year of expansion. So what was on the cards initially at the start of this year when you kind of planned ahead? What did it look like?
Yeah, I think it's really important to like reflect, and I think that's important for anyone on a health and fitness journey. I think it's important anybody with looking at even just like, work, business, whatever it may be, to kind of reflect on the things that you've done well and the things you haven't done so well, and to kind of look at, okay, how's that going to look moving forward? Some people only plan a week ahead, and some people don't even plan a day ahead. So for me, it's always around planning 12 months ahead, breaking it down into quarters, and then looking at, okay, if we need to refine things, this is where I think we're going to be in 9 months. But if we need to refine things and change it and switch it around and kind of move the needle a little bit more, or the goal, or the target, then we can do so. So naming it is something that's the first time I've done it this year. And next year will be named something different. But it's really around having that at the forefront of our vision, which is we want to expand in so many different areas. So expansion means a new gym. Expansion means more areas of the business. The expansion means a podcast. Expansion means individuals in the business are going to grow and be in different positions. So yeah, it's something that kind of you talk into existence and it starts to happen. And it's like why we're here now doing the podcast. It's why we're looking at new opportunities coming up into the next couple of months. And yeah, it's exciting.
And what processes have you used to actually help you kind of set those goals and kind of outline what that 12-month period is going to look like?
Yeah, I think it comes back to looking at, okay, what kind of team do we currently have? Where do I currently see the business going? Where do I want to see the business going? And then look at reverse engineering it from there. So looking at, okay, what's our 5-year goal? Let's bring it down into a short period of time. Let's look at 12 months. 12 months we can work with. We can work with that. We know where we're going to be in 12 months' time. 5 years, we can kind of throw some big numbers out there, and we're going to know how many people we want to help in 5 years' time. But a lot can change. A pandemic can happen. Lots of stuff can happen. But in 12 months, we can kind of anticipate what is going to happen from who we need in the business, how many more coaches do we need part of the business, what kind of opportunities are there for coaches to progress within the business, what kind of events are we going to be doing this year. That was another huge thing that we've never done before. Last year we had events that we kind of just threw out there sporadically. This year we had a whole structure. You and Amy worked really hard to kind of build out a roadmap for our members to be able to look forward to things. We love people who come on board with us and have a goal of losing body fat or getting stronger, but before you know it, they start to unlock their full potential and start to see great progress, and then start to see different events and go, yeah, I fancy a bit of that. And we had someone as recent as a few weeks ago jump onto the 3 Peaks who hadn't even finished their trial yet. And that's the kind of things that we love, is that people immediately have got that trust in us and know that they want to be here for a long period of time, and know that we're going to create the right platform for them to have different breaks within their journey. Who wants to be on a weight loss journey for 5 years? I want to be coming in somewhere, and as a byproduct of enjoying the journey of doing events and getting involved with small and large group sessions and other things that we have going on around the gym, before you know it, you look and go, oh, wow, I feel different, I look different, and the people around me are starting to treat me differently because they see me being more confident. They see me being more empowered and lifting everyone else up.
And you mentioned to me, I think it was yesterday, that you actually, at the start of the year, did a mood board. Is that right?
Yeah, vision board, yeah.
A vision board?
Yeah.
So where did you kind of get that idea from? And what is it?
Yeah, Natalie actually did this, and she was like, you should have a look at it. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll have a go. So I just kind of threw together, let's just throw out a number, 20 different photos of things that I wanted to achieve this year. That was just a microphone. So all these different numbers and different images represent different things. So only I really know what they mean. Like, one of our big goals is to get to 250 members here and be able to serve that many people in Old Coulsdon. So that's just a number that's on there, because I look at that every day I open my laptop. And that's what I think the problem with a lot of people who goal set. They throw these things out like, I want to lose weight. Number one, they haven't got a target. And number two, they haven't got a time frame. So and number three, they don't remind themselves of it. Every day I write down what I want to achieve, and that way it's at the forefront of my mind. So that's really the idea behind it. And what's really cool is when you open that laptop up one day, and we're now 6 months into the year, you look and go, oh, wow, I've achieved that. I've done that. We're en route to that. We're on track for that. And then you start to think, wow, all those things that you had on the screen are now starting to come into existence, because the more you see it, the more you believe it.
I think I think it's fair to say that also everyone that knows that your mentality is incredibly strong. Where does that? We spoke earlier that it comes from having a really good, I guess, work ethic, but you mentioned a couple of times about this kind of identity shift and this mental shift. What things do you do on like a daily basis that really keeps you accountable and keeps driving you forward with those things? Because it's very easy to take your foot off the gas. You got yourself to a decent point in the gym, you've got a good team around you. It would be so easy, and I've seen it before, where you just take the foot off the gas. Like what keeps that hunger and that drive?
I think number one, I'm scared of taking my foot off the gas. That's number one. Whenever I've taken my foot off the gas, nothing's ever gone right for me. So having my foot on the gas is super important. But I think it comes from just saying that I'm going to do something and doing it. It comes down to being as true to my word as I possibly can be. I never want anyone to come back on me and say, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do this. And that's my worst nightmare. So for me, it's all around, if I'm going to say something, let's take last week for an example. I've been lazy with my 4:30 workouts. I see you and Em and I say, guys, if you don't see me here at 4:30, you know I overslept my alarm. Start to just put things out there. Just start to tell people you're going to do something and let everyone else hold you accountable. Because we can have the best ideas, but until we start talking to other people and speaking about it and putting it into existence and having other people around you to hold you accountable, that's why I believe so many people have failed commercial gym experiences, because they'll sign up to a gym, but there's no one calling them. There's a sales rep calling them to sign up, but once they've signed up and they don't turn up for a month, no one cares. So that's what really inspired me about being at Nuffield and coming over to here, was like, I want to know each person. I want the team to know each person who comes through these doors, value that person, make them feel safe, to make them feel comfortable, make them feel that this is somewhere that's going to help them achieve what they want to achieve. And I think we're doing just that.
Now, we mentioned earlier about some challenges, like physical challenges.
Yeah.
Just name some of the challenges that you've got under your belt at the moment.
Yeah, we've got the 12 marathons in 12 months. That's a marathon a month, which is pretty cool. And anyone can type in Luke Turner on YouTube and check out. I ran over I think I put over 500 kilometers, which was kind of the equation for the whole year. The 100K, which was pretty intense. That's like 2.5 marathons in one sitting. Me and Brad, my best mate, we trained for that for 6 months. High Rocks, which we did last year. I did a relay, which was really good fun. Last minute jump in. Photo shoot, which I did the most recent. And again, even the photo shoot, like even when I look at the pictures and the videos, like it's amazing seeing it, but it's really not me, like being posy and doing all that stuff on set. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole process of it. It was one of the most challenging things I've ever done, because it was one of those that just required so much energy and attention. There was so much to track and look at. It's completely different to any kind of traditional gym experience, and it's something I wouldn't recommend anyone who's just looking to lose some body fat. I just wanted to take things to the extreme. I just wanted to go, how low could I go with body fat? How far could I take things whilst also managing everything else? Having my baby daughter, having a family, looking at things here at the gym and still being able to grow that, looking at just how I handle myself. And you learn a lot about yourself when you're in a massive deficit for 6 months. So,
and was the ultimate goal to have a physical challenge, or was the ultimate goal to have the mental challenge behind it?
I think a combo. I think a bit of the two. I think definitely physical, but the mental part of it is definitely, without a doubt, the most challenging part of the whole process.
Yeah.
The doubting that you don't feel like you're in the right place you should be. I had 3 trips that I had across that period of time, so it was ensuring that we were in the right place at the right time, and I was still staying on track when I was away on holiday, and going to Vegas and all the distractions that there was with food and going out. And I was just, as soon as the conference was done, I was heading to bed. I just built new habits, and I just became quite obsessed with the whole process, which is really cool. But what I've learned is off the back of those sorts of things, and a lot of people say, why'd you do something else? Like every time you've set a new challenge, it's like, because when you look at these athletes and you see people have come off the back of winning a Super Bowl or a rugby championship or a Premier League title or a Champions League title, a lot of these people are like, what do I do now? Like, I've won the biggest event out there. I've done a 100K run. It's like, what can I do to beat that? I could do maybe a 100 miler, but it's really just looking at what's next. So I did a post about it this morning, just about celebrating the win and then getting a win straight back under your belt. What can you work on next? And I've done the same in not just my own personal challenges in terms of being like physical, doing these fitness challenges, but also just in business. It's like great success. We've hit a massive milestone. We've been able to achieve X, Y, and Z. We've helped this, that, and that person. But okay, we've got more people to serve. We've got more things that we're going after. So looking at the next thing, because as soon as you don't have targets, you start becoming complacent, and then you start getting into depressive anxiety mode, which I'm that person. I'm a lazy person naturally. So I have to try and reframe the way I think to be able to create these big challenges where I'm like, okay, it's going to make me feel uncomfortable, but it's going to serve me in the long run.
Do you think there's a lot of benefit in being uncomfortable?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Like on a daily basis, on a fortnightly basis, monthly basis? What would you say?
I think daily basis. I think 100% a daily basis. I do something uncomfortable every single day, whether that's jumping in a cold shower, whether that's doing a training session, whether that's even just attacking some uncomfortable emails first thing in the morning. Like who wants to reply back to a like a boring long email that you've got to send off to someone? Like you want to be doing the fun stuff. Yeah. But I think you appreciate the fun stuff more when you've gone through the times of doing the shit stuff, the things that you don't want to do. But I think attack those first things in the morning. That's what I've the approach I've taken. So then it's not lingering over the rest of the day, because you just then procrastinate, and before you know it, a few days have gone past and you're like, I feel even more anxious that I haven't replied back to that person, or I haven't done that training session, or I haven't done this. And then again, a few months down the line, you're then 10 stone overweight and feeling guilty about what you've done.
I hope all the TBT people are listening, by the way, on the cold shower front. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
They should be week 2 into that now, so I'm hoping they're listening.
So what was that challenge you set for them?
So it was, the call we did with the TBT was about kind of building resilience mentally and physically. And it's definitely something I did 75 hard, as I mentioned to you before. Something that Andy Frisella came up with, which was a really interesting challenge, 75 days of real consistency. And actually in the phase 1, which is actually 30 days, off the back of the 75 hard, you have cold exposure. It's the first time that I'd ever done anything kind of cold exposure wise, like showers, plunges, but it was also the most confident that I'd ever felt. Yeah. And it wasn't just the cold shower, that it was obviously other things around that. But with the TBT guys, we're talking about resilience. It's the first thing that came to mind for me. It was something easy you can do, like easily accessible. There's no excuses really. You just got to try and get on and do it. So week 1 was 30 seconds every day cold shower. Week 2 was a minute every day. I think week 3 was 90 seconds. 4 was 2 minutes, and then week 5, 3 minutes every single day.
And you're doing the plunges at the moment.
I'm doing plunges. Yeah, I'm in the plunges. Not every day, but yeah, I'm doing the plunges. I was just saying to you before that the old thermometer's come in to actually see how cold my plunge actually is.
I look forward to finding out, mate.
I know. I'm dreading knowing, because I just really hope it's super cold and I've earned my stripes so far. I hope for you too. I really hope so, but I will let you know. As soon as I know, I'll let you know. So what is the next challenge for you then? Not necessarily on a business front, but personally, physically, mentally, what's the next challenge?
Yeah, I want to do the David Goggins challenge, because he's actually the one who inspired me to that first marathon. So that is 4 miles every 4 hours, for 48 hours.
4 by 48, yeah.
Yeah, it's 4 miles or 4 kilometers.
One of the two. They do miles in a marathon. 5K.
Yeah. And the goal is basically to get that done as quick as you possibly can, so that you have longer time to rest. But obviously, you never sleep for longer than probably 3 hours over a 48-hour time span. So that's something I definitely want to get stuck into. I've got High Rocks that I'm looking forward to in November, that we're going to be doing the doubles. That's really exciting. And I really want to get a good time in that.
I looked at World Championship qualifying time yesterday. I think it was like 1 hour, 1:01, automatic World Championship qualifying.
Where? So for everyone listening, we're going for sub 60 minutes. We threw it out there.
I think you threw it out there straight away. We hadn't even signed up yet, and straight away we're like sub hour.
We got that. I think if we prepare right, I think we've got the foundation there. It's definitely just around training specific for High Rocks. Yeah. Because when I did that relay a few weeks ago, it's definitely a shocker to the system. You definitely got to have a strategy. Definitely got to be conditioned for it. So obviously, once you finish your marathon in July, I'm excited to get in some High Rocks inspired sessions under my belt. Yeah. And then that's all I've got planned for now. I want to try and. That's actually 3. Normally, I do like one big challenge. Obviously, the photo shoot was quite a big challenge, but I just want to get back to enjoying training again. And although I have enjoyed training over the past 6 months, it's been very much around it's kind of like, again, just feels quite transactional. I'm like, training session done, tick that box, bang. But I actually want to start to have a bit more intention around doing some different things rather than just looking aesthetically like really good. Because even you look at me and you go, oh wow, like he looked great in that photo shoot, but you don't know what I was feeling on the inside and how I actually moved. You know, your body aches, you feel the cold more, all the things that people don't talk about when you get to that kind of depths of body fat. But even just in terms of like a strength perspective, from September to December last year, I was the strongest I've ever been. To then go to the place of where I've been the weakest I've ever been and trying to build that back up again. It's quite exciting getting under the barbell again, lifting some bigger weights, starting to get stronger, but also working towards some different things like higher rocks, like the 48-hour challenge, which I'm excited to partake in.
So what about a business standpoint? What's your goals for the rest of the year business-wise?
Goals, I don't know if I can tell these guys.
Probably not.
No.
Do
you know what? I always just, I think just making things better what we do. What we do here right now is like amazing. Yeah. But I think there's always room for improvement, especially where we've grown. I mean, I think that's the biggest struggle with any new business who's doing really well, like we have done. It's trying to keep up with the growth, get the right amount of people on board with the team. As I said earlier, we were really lucky with people just kind of finding us, and we've never really had to go out and start hunting for people and finding the right people. We've been really lucky where we're in a position where thankfully people have wanted to work here and come to us and asked if there's any opportunities, and we've just so happened to have some opportunities for people. So I think it's just around looking at what we're doing. We're always, every coaches meeting, every team meeting, as you know, JT, we're always looking at ways that we can improve things, talking collectively, collaborating, you know, just even like the manuals that we've just created for the coaching team. You know, there's never a time where we go, you just sit back and just start delivering there's always something we can do better, whether that's around how we split groups, whether that's around how we, you know, what kind of volume we have music on, whether that's around a new event that's coming up. We've got the games coming up in 2.5 weeks. That's really exciting. So there's always something that we're looking at. And I think it's just around making sure that our standards stay super consistent, but still being able to grow to the position where we can help more people and be able to create the best training experience and continue to do that.
And what about a personal level?
Personal, yeah, that's a good
goals
question.
For the rest of the year, personal level.
Personal level, I think continue to improve my leadership skills. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Trying to do better at that. I think being more present and being a better individual. Just like I was really good at it actually, believe it or not, before doing the shoot. Like back last year, I was able to like put a phone down and be in a conversation with someone and be really present and really listen and take some of that information on. But something I'm bad at is listening to something, thinking I've listened to it, but then not remembering. Mm-hmm. And when something comes up in conversation, it's suddenly like, oh, you know, you're going on holiday. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, you told me that, and I haven't remembered. You know, I just want to be, I want to have my finger on those sorts of areas where I'm a better leader, I'm a better person to be around, and still inspiring other people to do big things.
And what would you say your, I guess, top 3 things, the best 3 things that you do on a daily basis that has kind of really helped you to get where you are now, but also you think it can be really important for moving you forward?
Top 3 things. I think time blocking has been a game changer for me. So on my Google Calendar, I time block all the things that I have. Instead of just writing like 5 tasks that I want to achieve that day, I figure out those tasks that I need to achieve and then time block them into certain areas. So 6 to 7, X, Y, and Z. 7 to 8, X, Y, and Z. And that way it gives me some focus to kind of work really intentionally on those tasks and get them done. I think number 2 is being able to reflect over your goals every single day. I think that's really important. Just writing them out, looking at them. Where are you at? Are you on track to achieve those goals? Because we can have, you know, we can throw all these things out there. I want to lose 10 kilos of body fat. I want to create 5 businesses in the next year. But if there's no plan behind them, there needs to be a goal, and then there needs to be there needs to be an objective, and there needs to be a key result. So the objective is the goal. The key result is how you're going to get there. And that's definitely an approach that I have taken on, and it's really helped not just me but the team. And number 3 is, I think you'll just be doing something uncomfortable every day. Just doing one thing that makes you feel uncomfortable. It could be as simple as having a tough conversation that you've been putting off. True. Just like that could be something that's tough, because when you come out of that tough conversation, the relief you're going to have from all that, the built up anxiety that you've had of, you know, a lot of the time people think that we know that we're frustrated with that person, but if you just have that conversation, it's so much better for a relationship. Not that I'm in that position right now, but in the past when I've had it, I'm like, I should just have that conversation right now, immediately, rather than delaying it. And I think a lot of the time we procrastinate and delay the things that we know we need to do, but they're tough. They're tough things. So we go, I'll put that to one side. I don't want to deal with that right now. But if we just lean into those things, I think it's a game changer.
So I'm going to end on 2 questions.
Okay.
First one, what's the best bit of advice you've ever been given?
Best bit of advice. I would say...
You've not had time to prepare for this one. So.
Yeah, I haven't had time to prepare for this one. Best bit of advice. I think, you know what? I've had loads of different advice that served me, like that I would say 6 months ago would have been the best bit of advice, and 6 months before that, the best bit of advice. But the one that always comes to the forefront is just around thinking bigger. Mm-hmm. That's definitely the best bit of advice that I've ever faced. But there's other things, like in terms of just being able to be the best version of yourself and doing the things every day that's going to serve you and do what's best for you. Again, it just depends on the time and the period of time that I face when I've had those questions. But I'd say definitely just the thinking bigger. Mm-hmm. That's always been something that I've struggled with, that I thought I've been thinking big, but I haven't been thinking big enough. So definitely just thinking big.
And what would be your best bit of advice to anyone listening? You can't have the same one. You can't have the thinking bigger.
Best bit of advice. I hate the word "it depends," but I would say I think best bit of advice would be, how can you get what can you do today that's going to make you 1% better tomorrow?
Nice.
I made that one up on the spot.
I like it though. That's a little mic drop moment.
Can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
Yeah. Who is the next guest on the podcast?
So next guest will be Kasim Asene. So he is head of coaching and programming here, as you well know, at T2FIT. And the episode is going to be looking into small group PT, but also just programming in general. But how we kind of do things here at T2FIT, which will be super interesting. So excited to delve a little bit deeper into that one. All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time, mate. Appreciate it. Ladies and gents, if you've enjoyed today's episode, then please make sure you share it with someone. If there's anything in there that you found really, really useful, share it. Make sure people know about it. And we look forward to seeing you soon.